When I need answers about anything to do with personal growth, I go straight to my mom and my aunt. Here they are, Priscilla Babin and Tina Gilliat with the sister sauce.
Hi, everybody. I am Tina Gillian. I'm here with my gorgeous sister, Priscilla Babin. This is the Sister Sauce. I believe it's season 2, episode 13, with a lot of blank weeks since our last episode aired in middle of January. So, hello, Priscilla. Welcome back.
Hello. Hello.
It's fun to be back, huh?
We're back. We're back in action.
Yeah, it took us a while. So, a little
Oh,
update on us. We were very busy with various things, but one of which was me selling one house, buying another, and moving, and then trying to cram 3,400 square feet a house into less than 1,600 square feet a house. And so I was very busy doing that. And Priscilla said, "Hey, we don't have to do this every week if you're stressing out." And I was stressing out, people. So we
mhm.
didn't do it every week.
Yeah.
We took a
And
break
that's
for a
okay.
while, a
Mhm.
much needed break, but it's fun to be back.
Yep. We're here. We are here.
Do you
You
have any
know,
hot sauce wisdom you want to
I
share
have
with
some
us?
wisdom. I've been saving up wisdom all this time.
Oh my gosh, I know you're ready to explode. You have so much wisdom.
So I'll just throw one at y'all because I was gonna just rattle off a whole list of them, but I'm just gonna give y'all one because that'd be too many things and your brain would explode. Um, I saw a post from account on Instagram. You know, I love Instagram because it's easy to look at for me, little small chunks of stuff. And I'm not a big TikTok person, so plus that's going to disappear again anyway, supposedly. But the account is called Marriage is Happening. So I don't know if this is their content. I think it is. But the gentleman in the video was talking about how he's learned a lot about relating to how he has related to the women in his life. And he's learned a lot, especially from his therapist. And he never realized as a younger man and boy, he always valued women and other people in general for their utility and not their humanity. And what he meant by that was, for his example, he was saying that when he was a little boy, they had a project for Mother's Day or some holiday where they were supposed to write what they loved best about their mom or why they loved their mom. And he wrote down that she made him peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And it hurt his mom's feelings because she said, "That's what you love about me, that I make food for you? Is there nothing, you know, nothing more, because anybody could make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich." And that had way back then had got him thinking about it. And he realized, through help from his therapist that, a lot of times with his wife and daughters, I guess, or his own mother, his thought was, he was valuing people by what they could do for him and not who they are. And from
Hmm.
talking to his therapist, he realized the reason he valued other people that way, not just the women in his life, but also basically
Friends and
most people,
yeah.
pardon my cat who's about to knock down my computer, um, that it's because he grew up thinking that his value came from his utility, came from his ability to add value to the world and other people, and not from just his values of who
Yeah.
he was. And so that's your hot sauce take today is remember to value yourself and the people around you for who you are and who they are and your values and your personality and their personality and values, and not what they can do and or what you can do or what you've accomplished. It's about who you are, not what you've done.
I like that. Yeah, that's interesting because I bet most kids though do view their parents in that way.
Hmm. That's not to
Even
say you
grown-up
shouldn't
kids.
have potential and do great things, but
Yeah, and you should add value to other people, but don't
yeah,
think that that is your value. That
right.
is your primary value. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, today our meat sauce is a movie review. It's a documentary style movie, and it is called Will and Harper. And if you've seen the movie, then you know that Will and Harper is about Will Ferrell and Harper Steele. And they take a 17-day road trip across the United States after Harper has recently completed her transition to womanhood. So Harper was originally Andrew Steele and became Harper Steele through gender transition. And it is just a lovely story. Will and Harper were friends for many, many years after meeting on Saturday Night Live. And Harper was concerned about how Will would respond to her when he found out that she transitioned. And so he wrote her this lovely letter, or she wrote him, excuse me, this lovely letter and telling him about her transition. And he received the letter and was so gracious. And if you've ever seen any interviews with anybody or him, Will Ferrell himself, you know what a sweet,
Mhm.
genuine guy he is. And he's just incredibly kind and inclusive. And with Monday, the 31st, is Transgender Day of Visibility.
Mhm.
Priscilla and I are both parents of transgender children, and
Mhm.
so we um, have a special passion for wanting to educate people on transgender rights and visibility. And so that's what we thought we would talk about today, Will and Harper. What a lovely, lovely movie. Priscilla, why don't you go ahead and start just by sharing what your impressions of the movie were and what stood out to you?
Um, I loved it. I loved how real it was because they didn't sugarcoat anything. They didn't dress it up, to be all sunshine and roses. You get to see all the emotions that they both have. In particular, I think it speaks a lot to people who are less familiar with the transgender community, where it was something, although with Will, he's open, he's accepting and loving to Harper from the beginning, but it's not something he's real familiar with. So it takes him some time and learning what the right questions to ask are.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah,
necessarily, Harper doesn't put any boundaries on him as far as you can't ask me about this or that. She leaves it all wide open, which is fantastic
right.
because it helps educate him. And, she's like, there's no wrong questions, and he's nervous. You can see how nervous he is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not acting, it's all very real. He's nervous and you can see him like his wheels turn and like, how do I ask this thing and is it appropriate for me to ask this? And he even will ask permission sometimes. He'll be like, is it okay for me to ask you this? And so you learn a lot through his eyes, and ears, about what Harper in particular went through. But I think it translates for other people who are transgender as well, because they all have similar emotions about it and similar stories. So you get to learn about it from Will's point of view and in his discomfort, which I really appreciate that they didn't, like I said, make it look like he wasn't uncomfortable, like he's,
right.
the fact that, I mean, they could have had somebody who is a really familiar and really active ally in the LGBTQ plus community go in there and do this, it would have been entirely different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was
Somebody
one thing I
who's
really
been
appreciated.
exposed to it more. Yeah, and I
Hmm.
think I agree with you. And I think the discomfort that he sits in is not a disdain or a dislike for what Harper is now, but more so just I am walking on eggshells to an extent because I don't want to offend Harper. I love Harper, right?
Hmm.
And it was really kind of cool. I love the whole I'm going to get to know you as Harper kind of attitude that he
Hmm.
had. I've known you as Andrew, and now I want to get to know you as Harper. And,
Hmm.
the person doesn't really change. I remember one of the things that I went through when Livia told us that she wanted to transition was, I have this big old messy boy Joshua, and I was going to lose my messy boy, and he wouldn't be the same person anymore. And one of the things Livia said was, Mom, I will still be the same person. And now
Hmm.
she's just a big messy girl. I tease her about that. But no, but it's true. They're still the same person deep down, but they are much happier and
Hmm.
much more content in who they are. And it's just such a beautiful thing to have someone find themselves. It's like it's not really a good comparison, but somebody who has been stuck in a dead end job that they hate, and all of a sudden they find a job that they love, and it's like it changes their
Hmm.
life. Well, it's a similar feeling, I'm sure, for people who are in the wrong body or are labeled with the wrong gender and so, dealing with the gender dysphoria. I think it's a wonderful thing for them when they finally find themselves within that and fit to in
Hmm.
where they've transitioned to, and I love it. But like you said, it's messy and it's scary, and I went to lunch with a friend of mine the other day, and she was telling me that every time she sees the news about a new law that they're making about transgender, she worries about Livia. And I know you and I both know that we dealt with that worry and that concern. And you could see it, in the movie when Will and Harper are going in places that are not as accepting of
Hmm.
Harper, and Will sees that, and he's so sad for her that she
Hmm.
can't just know she will be accepted wherever she goes.
Hmm. And scared. You can see how
Yeah,
scared and nervous he is.
yeah.
And yeah, and she's very brave to go into those places. And a lot of people wouldn't. And I would not fault them for not.
Mm-mm.
But she did not want to give up something that she really felt connected with, which was that road, going on road
That road
trips and
trip.
going
Yeah,
into places. And that was what her life was before, was traveling and making friends everywhere she went.
yeah,
But it's not as easy, when people aren't as accepting. And so that was a really several scary moments where they went into places, where they didn't know what to expect. The
mhm,
first one, I was shocked because the first place that they went into, um, if you watch it, you'll see that Harper goes in by herself and insists that Will stay out because he's easily recognizable and stuff. And when she first goes in, people are very standoffish. I don't know if the camera was hidden or what, but you didn't get the sense that people knew there was a camera.
I wondered
But
about that as well.
before, I'm sure they probably had to have people sign waivers, because that stuff's always, tricky with
Yeah,
liability. But they probably did it after the fact. I don't know, because you would not, I don't think people would have, I think people would have behaved differently if they knew they were on camera.
yeah.
And
And
they
even
might have later.
even in the specific scene that you're talking about where Will Ferrell is outside standing
Mhm.
by and he's genuinely concerned for Harper's
Yeah.
safety. Just you can see how nervous he is.
Hmm.
And he's like, "You sure? You sure you want to do this?" And Harper's like, "Yeah, I got to do this. I got to, you know." And it's so true. What Harper's idea was, if Will Ferrell walks in with me, of course everybody's going to be nice to
Hmm.
me. Just like at the ball game, when they go to the ball game, everybody's
Hmm.
nice to her face, but then she finds out later that these are some of the same people that are, so transphobic and
Hmm.
wanting to take away some of her rights and um, her abilities, and it's just a really scary thing. But I think, like you said, I think that this is an excellent documentary for people to watch who have never been exposed to a transgender person before. And you may have been exposed to a transgender person but not really gotten to know them and talk to them. And it's one of the things that I think makes us more understanding is that we're not hesitant to ask questions of our children um,
Hmm.
about different things like
Yeah.
things are you concerned about? Uh, what types of relationships are you looking for,
Hmm.
and how do you feel when this happens? And I don't hesitate to ask Liv questions. She's really open about it, and she doesn't mind answering questions. It sort of reminds me of Catherine, who we have interviewed before, our friend who has osteogenesis imperfecta and gets some strange questions asked. And she said she's
Hmm.
pretty open to answering questions because it educates people. And I think our
Hmm.
kids are okay with educating people, um,
Yeah.
and just it's um it's just sad. I'm so thankful, we like I mentioned at the beginning, we just moved and it's always a concern. I don't know that our neighbors at our old house embraced Olivia at all because we weren't really super friendly with them even before she transitioned. But moving here, she has gotten so comfortable with our neighbors and she talks to them all the time and they are very supportive and at least they appear to be. And I'm thankful for that. And yeah, and it's not always been the case. You know, we've
Yeah.
been in situations where I was afraid for her and felt bad for her for the way she was treated. But so, anything else? Any other thoughts about it?
Well, I was when I was talking about that one scene, the place they were at is a bar,
Mm,
and when Will does go in, that was one thing I liked was when Will does go in and people recognize them, it draws people in. And instead of just hovering around Will, though, they do engage with Harper and they do ask her questions about, and one of the guys even said she asks him if he knows any other trans people and he says no, but I do have some friends who are gay or bisexual. And this bar is like there's smoke and there's pool tables and there's this I'm not going to say what all the signage in there is, but when you see that the signs and posters and stuff on the walls when she walks in, you immediately panic
yeah,
for her
like, oh my
because
gosh.
this is a very you know, a very bad situation for a transgender person to walk into. And
Hmm.
you can just imagine if you haven't seen it. And so in that situation, the fact that he came in, I think might not have benefited Harper that much. Did a little bit because she, got to talk to some people, but I feel like it benefited the people in the bar because they would not have maybe talked to her and engaged with her. I feel like they learned something. And I think that's great. And I think that's a way people can get more comfortable. And there was another situation where they went to a restaurant where people were just rude taking pictures of them and then posting stuff online that was
Oh,
really
horrible
ugly. That
things.
was the
Horrible
worst.
things.
So then at the end, there's they go out to another restaurant for like a fancy dinner, and Will disguises himself pretty ridiculously. His fake mustache is falling off, and the waiter, you can tell, probably knows who he is because he keeps smirking.
Yeah.
But some people criticized that in the movie because they said he shouldn't have disguised himself, that was like he was trying to show off. But I think he
Mm.
genuinely was trying to take the pressure off of Harper. And she even tells him, you don't have to disguise yourself for me. It's okay. And so I think it was I think he really thought he was going to disguise himself and nobody would notice
But he
him.
can't help himself because
He
he's just
can't.
such a bubbly kind of guy. And
Yeah, he's too. Yeah,
he
he's
draws attention
likable
to
no matter
himself
what.
even in
Yeah,
disguise because he's so personable and friendly and funny. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you about that too. I remember you told me about those negative reviews and about that portion of the movie. And I didn't find, I did agree with you that I felt like he was definitely trying to take the pressure off of Harper,
Mhm.
and
And
take some
avoid
of that
that
attention away.
negative feedback that they had gotten on social media. I think he
Yeah.
was trying to avoid more of that,
I mean, what
and
is it that
not
people feel that that's okay? You know?
because they're hidden behind the keyboard. We talked
True.
about that though a couple of times. Well, probably more than a couple of times about
Yeah.
trolls and how you would
So
be behind a
disgusting.
keyboard and you feel like you're in this safety zone, but they would probably not walk up to her face and say those things. People
It's
won't do that.
what kills me about it is who was Harper hurting?
Nobody.
Nobody.
And she was only hurting herself when she was Andrew and not able to, I mean, not intentionally hurting herself. She was hurting as Andrew because she wasn't able to feel
And
like her true self.
yeah, and we didn't share it in the introduction, but Andrew was married and had children,
Hmm.
and his children fully accepted his transition.
Hmm.
Um, the Caitlyn Jenner, when Caitlyn Jenner transitioned,
Hmm.
it was so public because they had the Kardashians reality TV show. It did not come across well because it was sort of a
No,
mockery. And that's what turned me off about the whole thing. I felt like it just felt disingenuous. Like this is just something to do to draw attention. And it may not have been that at all. Bruce
it might
Jenner
have, yeah, the
transitioning
way
to
it was
Caitlyn,
presented.
but
Yeah.
it came across that way. And so I'm not sure that was such uh, a good introduction to the transgender community. But this definitely, I felt like was
Hmm.
such a genuine and just pure um, representation
Hmm.
of what transgender people go through um, and what they're feeling. I love the part where Harper talks about what she felt like when she was a man and how she
Hmm.
just never felt complete. And I've talked to other transgender people who have said that, I knew my whole life that something was wrong,
Hmm.
that I needed to change something. And I
Hmm.
was being forced, it's very, it's sort of like somebody who knows they're supposed to be writing with it's terrible example, but knows you're supposed to be writing with your left hand and they keep making you write with your right hand. It's way oversimplified, but it's hard to come up with an analogy that people will understand. And
Yeah. I
it's
can
just,
identify a little bit in that, when I was a pastor's wife
mm,
for almost 30 years, and I was expected to be a certain way, have a certain personality, do certain things. And maybe not everybody expected that of me, but I felt like there was expectations. And so I I have a big personality when I want to. I might be a little introverted a lot of the time and quiet in certain circumstances, but I blossom in others. And I
Right.
have had a tendency to mute myself and tone myself down for the life I was living for so long. And I feel like, since I have been out of that world and more independent and everything, my personality is different. And I feel more relaxed, more myself. And so I have a little tiny window, not a big window, but a tiny window into, what that's like. And so many people have such rigid, perceptions, structures of what different people's gender identity should be, just based on, we have so many stereotypes. If you're a
Mm,
boy, you don't play with dolls. If you're a girl, you like pink. And I don't know. I think capitalism maybe is where a lot of that came from. And also, of course, you know, uh the macho male stuff, the patriarchy, the idea of, putting men on a certain level and women not, and then setting certain standards, and that stuff goes way back. And it's really not supposed to be that way.
hmm hmm
You go back into ancient history, and there were lots of gay people and lots of trans people and non-binary people, and gender was not so specific and not so standardized. And then it's I hear a lot of people say gender is a spectrum, but I think that's even too rigid. Like, I feel like gender is like a mixed bag of M&Ms, you know. You might reach in and get a handful of blue ones, you never know.
hmm Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like you know, I am not as feminine as lots of other ladies. I don't even feel like I identify with the word lady, really. Maybe it's because I'm immature. I don't know. I'm just a kid. I'm only
Girl.
52.
We'll call you girl.
What, 52? I'm just a girl.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said though. You hit on something a little bit. And I think you might have been thinking it, but just didn't say it. I was telling my friend about how I feel, but it might only be because I'm the mom of a transgender female, that transgender females face more ridicule than transgender males.
Yeah.
Um, and my friend said, well, it just goes back to the misogynistic, you
Yep.
know, uh, backgrounds of a lot of
Hmm.
people, a lot of men particularly.
Yep.
Well, and it made sense to me, and I said it's true. It does make it harder.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of, yeah, it's the same thing with people in the gay community. Lesbians don't get the hate that gay men get because of if especially if they are feminine. If they show any femininity, anything feminine, you know,
oh yeah, oh yeah. It's like all the
which
jokes, all the stereotypes about men wanting to see two women together.
Mhm.
It it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, Well, I for one give Will and Harper two thumbs up, and I know you do as well. Yeah.
There. Two
For
thumbs.
our
Y'all can see
audio audience,
four thumbs.
both of us have our two thumbs up, so it gets four thumbs up.
That's a bony.
And Will and Harper did come out in 2024, and it is available for viewing on Netflix, right, Priscilla? I think it's Netflix. I'm gonna double.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is. I was trying to remember when I watched it, I accidentally watched it on Joey's profile, and he was like, "Why is this on my profile if you
Yeah,
watched
it
it?"
is. It's
Oops.
streaming on Netflix right now. So yeah, it is actually also still playing in some movie theaters. So, but yeah, and definitely check it out if you get a chance,
Yeah.
especially if you feel uneducated about transgender people. Watch this documentary. You will,
Especially if you feel uncomfortable about
yes,
the
you will
subject.
laugh, you will cry, and you will fall in love with Harper and with Will. And
And
just,
stay tuned till the very end of the credits because you got to see Kristen Wiig sing her song about friendship.
oh, so
It
cute.
killed
I
me.
just love her. Yeah, so precious. And yeah, definitely. You had given me the heads up that the song was coming, and every time they started playing a different song, I was like, wait, is that the one? No, that sounds familiar. And then when they finally showed her at the end, I was like, oh, there she is. So yeah, definitely a cute little song to listen to. I love the movie so much.
Yeah,
So
it's
good.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, do you have some marinade for us this week?
You have
Something
to
to
think about what
marinate?
it was called because it's been so long.
Yep.
Yeah, I do have some marinade, and it's perfect for today's topic because it's about inclusive theology. And so, if you're familiar, there are a lot of churches that welcome people of the LGBTQIA plus community and and people from all marginalized backgrounds and populations. And so um, I follow this one pastor. Actually, I follow him now because of this post. My former pastor had shared a post by Pastor David Hansen. And I saw the post that my former pastor shared. And I said, oh, I really like this guy. His website is digitalpastor.org. And again, his name is David Hansen, Hansen. I did not look at his website, but he looks like a fun guy. Um, anyway, he had shared this post, and then Pastor Chris, our former pastor, had shared the post, and I looked at the post and said, I love that. He said, I had a fantastic conversation with a new member recently about our inclusive theology. Their church obviously is inclusive and invites people from these marginalized groups. And he said, they asked me the best question: what if you're wrong? The question is such a great test for any theology. What if you're wrong? And he said, I could be wrong. Any of us could. Just imagine if progressive inclusive theology is wrong, that would mean standing before God while God says, you have been too loving, too kind, too welcoming. The God I know would never say such a thing. If I'm in error and the choice is between being too judgmental and being more loving, then that feels like an easy choice. And I just love that. It's a very simple way to look at it. And I think people need to recognize that there are so many interpretations of what scripture is saying. And it's funny how those same people don't think anything of the fact that the Bible tells us things about wearing garments from one thread and all these different things that the Bible talks about. They figure they can easily pick and choose what they want and forget that it's a lot of it is written by man and interpreted in different ways. And so
Yep.
we can trust God, and knowing that God tells us to love our neighbors as ourselves and to love everyone. This is my commandment, that you love one another. And treating people with any type of judgment or disdain is just not right. It's not godly. So I love that little message from Pastor David Hanson.
I love it.
No,
I was clapping. I don't know if that comes over the Zoom.
it didn't. It didn't. I'm glad you described your clapping. I didn't think to say it.
Two hands clapping.
Well, I think that this has been fun. I missed it. I'm glad to be
Yay.
back.
Yep. Me too.
Whether we shall be regularly every week will be another thing
We'll see.
to figure out as we go, but we will try.
We will do our best.
Yeah. And until we are with you again, make yourself a priority.
And take care of you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to keep up on all the latest sauce. See you next time.